Okay, I think we'll get started anyway. So, very glad to have Mona Mølnvik here to talk about Norway. Interesting stuff. There's a lot to talk about, I guess, as things seem to be happening there faster than anywhere. So Mona, you're a mechanical engineer by background, is that right?
Yes, actually, I'm a mechanical engineer, yes.
And how does a mechanical engineer come to be working in carbon capture and storage?
Yes, in mechanical engineering, the education in Norway, it's kind of divided in two, where one is more the hard or the metal stuff and the production stuff, and one is related to process, so industrial processes, and then from there it's not so far from CCS. And actually one of the routes into CCS and hydrogen research we do is that in the department I come from at NTNU, or NTH, which was the name when I was a student, is the refrigeration. And the liquefaction of gases is really relevant for producing LNG, which was one of the topics I started working with when I started as a researcher in SINTEF, and also as a team leader for gas technology in SINTEF. We had quite a lot to do with the Hammerfest LNG plant. And liquefaction of hydrogen is a topic when it comes to transporting hydrogen, large amounts of hydrogen over a big distance. And also in CCS, when it comes to handling CO2 for both as a capture process and for conditioning and transporting on ship. Liquefaction is actually very relevant. So, and also combustion technology is part of mechanical engineering education.
Yeah.
So, and this also, so I was also into the combustion part. Yes.
That's good. And what was your PhD? In your bio, it says you did a PhD, but it doesn't say subjects.
Yes, I did a PhD. You shouldn't believe, but it's true. Yes, I have the papers.
Come on. So what was it on?
Yes, I did my PhD actually for Norsk Hydro. And they have a process, they produce aluminium. And for doing that, they need anodes, which is carbon blocks to get the power, to get the current, and to make the metal melting. And those anodes, they need heat treatment or pre-baking, they call it. And this process is heating of a carbon block where the tar, which is one of the components in the carbon block, starts to pyrolyze. And this pyrolyzed gas is transported due to the pressure build up in the block. It is transported to the outside where it burns. So I did the modeling of this process, and it's actually a very interesting modeling task because you have the interconnection or the feedback from the heating process. So it's linked back, and you can do quite extensive modeling of multi-component diffusion in porous media and so on. And I did my best, and it was really a hard work, and I learned a lot from it. Yes, and it's very. I really love this task because it's. I see it so many places also now. When I look around and see the issue where they try to produce bio-coal, for instance, you need to understand these processes.
Yes, that's very true. And then, I mean, in your career, did anything really prepare you for managing a national centre with academics, researchers, and industry, and everybody all trying to politicians, I guess, all trying to put their own individual sort of
oh yes, that's an interesting question. I think I have been doing this for quite a long time, since I was in the big CCS center before the Norwegian CCS Research Centre. But I never did it alone. I took over from Nils Røkke back in 2010 or something.
Yep.
And we worked very close, and I also worked very close with my manager, which is Inge Gran, which has been my boss for almost 20 years. Oh, the nice cat you have.
Yeah. I'm just keeping quiet before she starts to cause me trouble.
Yes, I think this doing it and daring to try and fail and learn, and always know that you do your best. And sometimes it's quite scary because it's so much. It's such big volume, many partners, a lot of money, a lot of interest from government and research partners, industry partners, and so on. But not thinking you are doing it alone. But I think I have managed, and I managed because I have very good people around me and a very good team. So I think this team. Thinking as a team player, I think is important. Yes, but managing it, I can't say I manage because tomorrow is a crisis, and then I don't manage. So.
Yeah, you survive it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think, yeah.
Well, so I won't put you any more on that. You might. Okay, Mona, could you tell us some about doing a lot more than surviving CCS in Norway?
Yes, I can. I can give you a presentation. I think it will take maybe 20 minutes. And if you have questions or comments
sure, yeah.
when I speak, just interrupt. And if you want to discuss afterwards, that's also perfectly okay. So I can try.
So I'll just say to people, if you want to put questions in while we're going along, put them in on the chat, and I'll try and remember to pick them up.
Yes. But it's okay to stop me also and place the question if you see it suits where I am in the presentation. Just
okay. If it's needed for clarification, otherwise we'll leave them to the end.
Yeah.
Okay. The floor's yours, Mona. Thank you.
I'll see if I manage to share something here. I don't know if this is. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So this is a presentation where I will try to tell you a little bit about, sorry, like this. So I will try to tell you a little bit about the Norwegian CCS Research Centre and put it in a perspective where I also talk about the plans for a full-scale CCS chain in Norway. And first, this is the only slide I have about SINTEF, but I work with SINTEF, and SINTEF is one of Europe's largest research organization. We are independent and we do contract research, and most of our income comes from projects where industry is part of the funding scheme. We have 7% state funding. The rest is competition for projects. So we need to be relevant. And if we are not relevant, we have to do something else. And this always looking for new possibilities to build project portfolio is something I have been doing for almost 20 years. And I still think it's very, very interesting and a little bit scary, but still I really love what I do. So in addition to be the manager of the Norwegian CCS Research Centre, I'm the research director for a department in SINTEF Energy Research. And this department is called Gas Technology, and I'm leading approximately 50 people there. And we have a turnover per year, which is approximately 80 million Norwegian kroner. So this is also a challenge, and I try to balance this between also being the director for the Norwegian CCS Research Centre. SINTEF and NTNU have, together with many very good partners in Europe and the rest of the world, developed a research portfolio in CCS for more than 20 years. And actually CCS was invented in Norway by Erik Lindeberg and Thorleif Holt back in 1986, I think. So there is a long history, and these projects are just a list, and I will not comment them, but working with industry and trying to tap into the grand challenges in society with CCS research has been the effort for more than 20 years, and it still is, and it has, I think, been part of the development and where we are today. These projects, I think, have more impact on European policy and the development of large-scale CCS projects than we immediately can see. So the idea of storing CO2 in a network project like what is under development in Norway now came from research, but now it's a commercial process, and the research is not so visible there, but still I don't think it would have been without. So there is a very, very strong link. And of course, the commercial projects, they build on this knowledge platform that has been developed over the years. So the NCCS vision is to enable a fast track for full-scale CCS by industry-driven science-based innovation addressing the major barriers for CCS deployment identified within demonstration and industry projects. So this is a long vision, but we really feel that this center is related to what is going on in the real projects, and that we are relevant, and that the industry partners really contribute to this relevance. We have deployment cases in CCS, the two I show you here. One is CCS for Norwegian industry, and this is very close to the Norwegian full-scale project, which I will come back to. And also storing Europe's CO2 in the North Sea Basin is relevant because this could be seen as a second or third phase of the Norwegian full-scale project. And as we all know, CCS has been under development for many, many years, and we all wanted to go faster, and we want it to be implemented faster, and we all hope that this will accelerate now. And personally, I think we are quite close, but still we have a long way to go to really have this deployed. So the major barriers for CCS deployment might not be anymore the technical barriers, but maybe it is the other things related to the business models, how to share risk, and how to make these gas chains come true with so many decisions needed to be taken along the chain, and also bearing in mind the challenges that have been with storing CO2, transporting CO2 across borders, and so on. So there have been, and there are issues that are in addition to the technical one. So because of that, in NCCS, to overcome the barriers for CCS deployment, we have through R&D, or to help with that with R&D, we say that we will help reducing the cost of CCS. We would like to help de-risking CCS, and also we would like to contribute to the scale up of CCS. And then we have defined 5 pillars which we work along in CCS. So of course we want to maintain the research competitiveness. We want to integrate the academic program in the R&D portfolio. We want to ensure industrial relevance, promoting innovation, and then disseminate the results and the impact. So to maintain the research competitiveness, we have set up a research program of 12 tasks. And here you can see the very nice group of our user partners contributing both with people and money, or research university partners, and the vendors we have in the center. And we work very closely with the vendors, and where we have vendors, actually when we built the center, when we decided which research tasks to prioritize, we said that if you have a vendor with you, there's a lot higher chance that you will have a task in the center than if you don't have a vendor. So for instance, Krone is a vendor working very close with task 8 here, which is fiscal metering and thermodynamics. And they, Krone, it's a UK-based company which wants to develop fiscal meters or fiscal metering equipment for CO2. And now we have got a new vendor in the center, which is Baker Hughes, and they also want to work with this task to develop their metering system. So now we have 2 vendors working with the same goal to develop their equipment to be used for metering CO2 mixtures. So this is just an example. We also have Ansaldo. They work on they are dedicated to gas turbines burning hydrogen. And of course, they are the main vendor within the gas turbines task. And in each task, we also have the vendors, the users, the researchers, and the professors, and the PhD students. So they create what we call a task family, and they are responsible for the development and planning and execution of this specific task. And we have a model in NCCS which we are quite proud of, and this is a model where we can develop new projects as spin-off projects from the center. And we can do that because we have a very good financial situation with a cash contribution from the large user companies. And we have developed these 7 competence building projects with the basis in NCCS and under the same contract, bringing new topics, strengthening existing topics, and also bringing in new research partners. So I really think this is a possibility also to maybe in the future we can manage to strengthen the cooperation between UK and Norway within CCS. This is something we have been discussing for a long time, and we have very nice ACT projects, ERANET ACT projects together, and maybe this also is a possibility for the future, I think. And you also probably know the Excel research infrastructure for CCS, which is very closely linked to NCCS, and most of the tasks we have in the center, they uses these various of these infrastructure, and it wouldn't actually have been possible to have all these facilities without the Excel setup. Yes, and we have, maybe this is not so impressive for you, but because when I go to UK and I visit you in the UKCCSRC, I see you have many professors, many PhD students involved, and you have a very strong academic program. And we have 7 PhD students directly in the FME, Norwegian CCS Research Centre, and they work closely within the research tasks. They meet the industry, the users, the vendors, and they have to be, they present their work at the consortium days and the workshops and so on. So they're really integrated, and we are very proud of them. But compared to what you do in the UK, this might not be so impressive, but if we sum up the portfolio of projects and all we do within CCS, then the sum of PhD students in Norway is quite impressive. In 2018, some of you might have noticed, or you were maybe participating in the CCS summer school arranged by IIA GAG. And that was already 2 years ago. And I really hope we are able to meet again soon, and that we can continue having this type of arrangement, because it was a kind of, I don't think we really appreciate enough these possibilities when we have them, and now when we don't have them, we really long back. We really would like this to come back. Yes, and we have a mobility program where we invite students to come to us, and students from the center go to other universities than their home university. So this is a picture just showing how the mobility program works in NCCS, and we have a possibility where the students can apply for mobility funding for this mobility program. And we really think this is a good thing. And the best, I think, where we are most proud is when students want to come to NCCS to be part of the work that we do. It's really great. Yes, and we have the Trondheim CCS conference. We had the 10th anniversary in 1 year ago. And again, we took it for granted that we could be present, all 400 people in Trondheim. If that had been no, I would be so happy to be able to go to the conference and meet so many people. I think it was just fantastic, and I really long to this to come back. So I really hope we will be able to have TCCS 11 in 1 year in Trondheim, and inviting all of you to come back. Yes, and then to the industrial relevance. The Norwegian CCS demonstration project, or the full-scale project, you might know it quite well. And for those of you that doesn't, this is the idea is to capture CO2 from 2 locations near Oslo. One is a waste to energy plant at Klemetsrud in Oslo. And there the plan is to capture 400,000 tons CO2 per year. And then we have the Heidelberg Norcem cement production facility in Brevik, where the plan is to also capture 400,000 tons of CO2. And then the idea is to transport by ship the CO2 around the coast to Western Norway, where there is a terminal, a hub on shore. And from there, there is will be a pipeline out to a formation called Aurora, where there has been drilled a test well, which has shown to be successful, and to store the CO2 there. This is the phase 1 of the full-scale project. So this is another picture showing the same, and from this is from Northern Lights. So everything that has to do with transport, the hub, and the offshore transport and the injection is part of the Northern Light project. And Equinor, Shell, and Total, they are the partners in Northern Light. And I've said this many times, but I can say it once more. It is that these 3 partners, they were also partners in the Center Big CCS, which is the forerunner for the Norwegian CCS Research Centre. In the center, they got to know each other, and they sat many years around the board table in the task families, and they discussed CO2 transport, CO2 storage, injection, many issues. And the people in those companies, they got to know each other, and they were able to, they had an arena where they could discuss these issues without having commercial negotiations or whatever. They just got to know each other as people interested in making CCS happen. And on the start of the full-scale project in Norway, the Northern Lights projects were funded because Equinor, they applied to be the transport and storage partner of the full-scale project. And there were negotiations bringing Total and Shell also into this project, because Total had also applied, and there were negotiations, and they decided to do this together. And I believe that these people knew each other from big CCS, was part of the success story of making Northern Lights happen with the partnership we have today. So to make things like this happen, it's more than money, it's more than decisions. You also need the people that want things to happen, and to dare to speak to each other, and to dare to find solutions. And I think this is a very good example of such a thing. So actually, I think I don't think the Northern Lights project would say the same, but I like to say that the Northern Lights consortium is kind of born out of the research portfolio we have developed in Norway for many, many years. Yes, so a little bit back to the capture facilities. We have CO2 capture at the waste plant, the incineration plant at Klemetsrud, and the cement plant in Brevik. And where the project stands now, it's that we have the confirmation well is finished, and it's said to be okay. And we have had company decisions, and the Northern Lights partners have made an investment decision for this project. And we are now in the phase where we are waiting for the state decision. And you might know that there have been discussions both in the government and the parties not part of the government. And we hopefully will have an investment decision this autumn. There have been some lately discussions, maybe pointing towards that there will be a decision for one capture plant, and one on conditions that they also managed to bring in funding from the European funds, but we don't know yet. And this will just be very, very interesting autumn. And also in light of the Corona crisis, this is it's kind of very interesting to follow. And we really hope that this time there will be an investment decision. But before it has been made, it hasn't been made. So we're following this quite closely. Yes, and coupling the Norwegian full-scale project and NCCS is really not so difficult, because this picture is from the Northern Lights project, and the icons, they are from the Norwegian CCS Research project. And we have asked to use the picture, so it's okay. And as you can see, the tasks, they line up quite well with the Northern Lights project, and we do very many of the issues that are part of this full-scale project. And we also have the people which is delivering knowledge to the full-scale project. They are part of setting up the task, deciding on the annual working plans in NCCS. They sit in the board. We have very many discussions on many levels between the user partners in NCCS, which are also in the full-scale project, and the researchers. And I think also for the PhD students, this is very good, because they can really get a feeling of what is relevant, what are the concerns, and where do the industry want us to go? But of course, since NCCS is about research, we don't do one thing the one day and another thing the next day. It's we really want to build excellence and to stay on the track and to do work that makes a difference. And we don't do that if we do what the industry tells us every day. So it's there is a discussion, and there is also when you work with industry, you have to find this balance between strategic research and what the industry would like to have today. But it's a very good challenge, and I think it makes NCCS a very good center. Yes, and then we work on promoting innovation, and that is of course linked to the full-scale project. And in the annual report for 2019, we have a section covering innovations and impact of our research, and you are invited to visit it and to read it, and there you can read about 4 different cases where we have analyzed the value creation potential of what we do and the impact of the research. And I think it's a very good exercise for the research tasks to do, because then they really have to answer, is my research relevant? How will it be used? And what is the, if I manage to do everything I have planned and everything I wish to achieve, what is then the result? Because if you work for 10 years and you manage to do what you want and the result and the impact is limited, then it's good to know. And we are lucky because when we do these analyses, we see that the impact of the research is big, and we want it to be big. And we want to do this analysis for more of the research too, because it really helps us staying on the track, being relevant, and also maintain the excellence in what we do. Yes, so this is a little bit more analysis, and I won't go into the details here now. And then the 5th pillar is about dissemination. And we can say we need to do it now, and we need to, when we talk about CCS, start now, it's safe, it provides value, and research and development will make it even better. So these are the slogans we work according to. And we try to be in the public media, and it's not so easy for all of us because we really don't like it maybe so much as we should, but it's we try. And we also have quite a big focus on the internal communication. So, and it's really interesting for me to see what you do in the UK, because it's really fascinating, and I think we also can learn a lot from what you do. Yes, and this is the management team and the task leaders. They are such a nice team. They work really hard, and I think their achievements are also worth looking into. So I'm really proud of this very nice bunch of people. So by this, I thank you for listening, and please tell me if you have any questions.
Thanks very much, Mona. So, questions. I'm not seeing many questions coming in on the chat yet. Let's see if I can see any hands raised. Well, okay, so I get to ask the first question, I think, in that case. So the question is it better for Norway to make hydrogen at home and ship it out, or to make hydrogen at coastal plants in Europe, as I think you're talking about, or somewhere like that, from natural gas, and ship the CO2 back, or pipeline in the longer term?
I think this is a very interesting question, and I think to make this happen either in Norway or Europe, I think the question maybe could be rephrased to, is it good for Europe? to do the one or the other, because if Norway has a strategy which is just good for Europe or for Norway, it will not happen, even if it's very good for Norway. So I think also for Norway, being used to, we have a lot of oil and gas, we can store CO2, we can export clean hydrogen. I think we need to take, to put ourselves in Brussels or in Europe, continental Europe, and say, what do we need and what do we want? And if we do that, and do that together with continental Europeans or in joint European projects, I think we can find very good answers. And we have a project now also with the Imperial College called Elegancy, which have their final conferences webinar next week, and I would really encourage you to participate if there are open. I think there are some open meetings there, and they will have some early answers, I think, because Elegancy is a Eranet Act project focusing on how hydrogen can make a business case for CCS. We also have a GIP with IOGP called Hydrogen for Europe, which is focusing on these things, and or more with the European perspective. So I don't know, because it depends which perspective you take, and I think you can come to answers for both as the best.
Is Norway talking much about exporting electrolytic hydrogen?
Can you repeat?
Just slight follow on for that, and I'll open it. But is Norway talking about exporting electrolytic hydrogen? You know, hydrogen from electrolysis, yes, using renewable electricity.
Yes, we have a very we have a quite hot discussion about the origin of hydrogen in Norway, because we have a very strong environment when it comes to producing electricity from hydropower. And now we are increasing the wind power capacity also. So producing hydrogen from renewables is very interested, and it's very wanted. And having worked within these topics some years, we see that actually there is, it's really not a question about either or, because the capacity, you have so much energy in the natural gas for hydrogen, if you use it to produce hydrogen, that if you also would like to produce hydrogen from renewables, you can do that, and you can start building a hydrogen society from renewable hydrogen. And when you need more, you can come in with a large amount of hydrogen from natural gas with CCS. And we have some really interesting perspective also when it comes to the energy mix producing the electricity. Because if you have an island mode, you can say this is clean, but all renewable energy that is produced is used. So if you put on more production and use that for producing hydrogen, it might be it might not be renewables, which it might be the coal power or other sources. So this is a really interesting discussion, and the only I think bringing up the knowledge about these issues is our task, and I think we are getting closer, and we are having really good discussions about this in Norway. Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'll open it up. So, Emmanuel Adewale, you had a question to ask. Do you want to come on and ask it?
Hello. So can you hear?
Yes. Do you want to ask?
I think I could.
Yes. Okay, you can hear me. Yeah, my question is actually relating to the.
Actually, Emmanuel, sorry, can I just interrupt? Can you just introduce yourself briefly, please?
Okay, my name is Emmanuel Adewale. actually into research, basically to exploration and consultant in Nigeria. So my interest in actually the three major gas that I actually mentioned. They had kind of interest in the CCS projects, apart from others. Are they? Is it just because there is less interest in oil and gas exploration, or something like that? Change it to
Sorry,
like take
it's really,
ENI for
it's impossible
example.
for me to hear what you're
Okay,
asking.
I'll ask, it was written down, so I
Okay.
can ask.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
try again.
Yeah. So can you hear me? If you can hear me, so just want to know the three majors. Does it have to do with diction? And now they are thinking of going to energy generations, like ENI in Africa, for example. They are saying, no, we are not only oil and gas. We want to be known as an energy company. Therefore, if you say, okay, let's do
Sorry, it's
Yeah,
maybe,
okay.
but it's
relating to
impossible.
energy, like
Okay,
carbon dioxide
Emmanuel,
generation.
I'll ask the question if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry. So the question was, Mona, it was written as what actually stimulated the interest of the three oil and gas majors in the CCS, and I think I picked up also, was this because oil and gas companies are starting to diversify and become more general energy companies, do you think?
Why oil and gas companies would like to go into CCS?
Yes.
Yes, what we see in NCCS, I can start from a little different angle, is that we have had like Equinor, former Statoil, with us within CCS for many, many years. And that comes from, they started with Sleipner 24 years ago, and they started also at Snøhvit, capturing CO2 from the natural gas for producing LNG in 2007. I think we see that, yes, they have this, see the possibility to both develop solutions for those having CO2 emissions because they use fossil fuels, and also to make more value of the natural gas producing clean hydrogen with the CCS. So I think this clean hydrogen with CCS is an important driver for many of the companies. But we also see in Norway now that CO2 capture from process plants is becoming more and more possible to happen, because we have a strategy process in Norway called Process 21, where we have an expert group in CCS, and the Norwegian companies, they are really changing their attitude, and they're really interested in understanding how can they adapt to CCS with their processes. So this is very interesting, and that doesn't show from the partnership in NCCS yet. So we're really having very good discussions with potential new partners in NCCS from the process industry. But they have a different driver. They want to produce clean products, and they want to have a license to operate. And many of these, they don't have any other option, because they can't solve their emission problems with renewables or energy efficiency.
I mean, going back to your PhD, still some CO2 from conventional aluminium production.
Yes, aluminium is a really hard task, because they have an ultra low CO2 concentration in their flue gas. It's almost around 1%. So it's really a hard task, and we need to do some really good innovation there to make this CCS as a good opportunity for these processes. But there might be possibilities, because both Hydro, Elkem, Yara, which are companies operating in Norway with big plants. They are really technology driven, and they have been for many, many years. And I believe if they see that they need to bring down their CO2 emissions, they will do it. And they have a lot of engineering skills and innovation skills. So I really look forward to the next 10 years working with those companies, yes.
Yeah, still a lot better than direct air capture anyway, 1%.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's, yes, and it has a great potential. So we just need to come up with with good solutions for that.
So we've got another question from Paolo Prunzel. If you want to come on and ask the question, just briefly introduce yourself first, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Paulo Prunzel. I work for Petrobras, a Brazilian oil and gas company, and also my online student for the University of Aberdeen. And my question would be related to the offshore use of CCS. If there is any kind of research on conversion of natural gas to hydrogen on oil and gas platforms, so you can use it as on-site power generation or eventually power to shore. And also if there's any research on the capturing the flue gas from gas turbines. If you don't convert to hydrogen, you burn the natural gas as it is today. If you guys have any project on that for the flue gas capturing and storing the CO2 on site.
Yeah. You can check out the Sepong project, which we did some years ago. This is about the last thing you asked about, CCS on the offshore platform on the turbine. So, and this is actually the first idea for CCS was related to this, because it was an oxy-fuel process proposed by Erik Lindeberg and Thorleif Holt back in 1986 with injection of CO2 offshore. So this is something that has been worked on, but I don't think it's finished, and I think we still shall continue doing this, because doing this offshore have some requirements when it comes to how compact, what about utilities, safety, which capture technology is most suited, and so on. So this is it's a very important task. We have a center which is not the Norwegian CCS Research Centre, but it's called Low Emission. And this is a petroleum center for getting offshore CO2 emissions down to zero by 2050. And there are many ideas, power from shore, using hydrogen in the gas turbines and so on. And I know they also work a little bit on what you are mentioning. And we have done some studies to see whether producing hydrogen offshore is a good idea or not. And so far, I think it's quite fast turned down by those operating the platform, saying that we do not want to have hydrogen production offshore due to the hydrogen issues. But again, if you look back 50 years, there was nothing in the North Sea, and now we have so much technology. So I think we should not turn down those kind of ideas, even if it's difficult to do it now.
Just a very quick follow-up on that, actually, to Paolo. You've gone quite. Do you think sometime we could get a talk on the offshore work that's being done in Brazil? Because Mona, that's basically. I mean, it's a very deep water CO2 from the LNG production platforms. We should ask about that. I mean, if you're talking about stretching the technical envelope, that's really stretching.
Yes. Actually, I did a speak once or a presentation where I compared my age to the development of offshore Norway, and when I was born there was nothing in the North Sea, and that's quite interesting perspective, I think. So it helps me when I think 50 years from now, where are we? And we should have great expectations for the future.
Yes, I haven't seen that comparison made very much recently. So that's interesting. A question I know that's been coming up a bit in the UK. You talked about storage, CO2 storage. What do you see as being the big issues or research issues, particularly in storage? I mean, they say we can do it, but you have research on it as well.
Yes. In NCCS, we have 4 tasks on CO2 storage, and one is related to containment, which is we would really like to have. We need to know how the CO2 that it stays within the storage sites, and that we don't have faults, for instance, where we can have leakages. So this is very important, and there's a very close link between the researchers in NCCS and Northern Lights, because actually there was a storage site that they had planned to use, which they changed because there was a worry that this was not the best solution. And so to know as much as possible about the impact of faults, for instance, is very important, because if we don't dare to use a storage facility where there is a fault and this still would be safe, we'll lose storage capacity. And we do well integrity, because CO2 wells, they really need to be designed to handle CO2, not oil and gas. So we do quite extensive work on how to cement, what type of cement, and so on, and also what happens during injection and the near well situation, and how to get the CO2 into the field. We do monitoring, because monitoring is if you are the government, or if you are responsible for the long-term safe storage, you will have a lot of monitoring, but you also would like it to be not too expensive. So this is also something we really are focusing on, and we are also very much into the behavior, and we have this. You probably know the data share project, where we have now made data from the Sleipner field available for all to do research, and we think this is a very good achievement, and a place where researchers and the commercial actors have played really good together. And now data from Sleipner, 24 years of CO2 storage has been shared with all research communities, and all can use them. And this is a big achievement, I think, for the CCS, development of CCS.
I was going to ask you how researchers and actual practitioners work, because I mean, we see comments like, well, it's not very easy to get researchers offshore.
No, it's not easy.
Do you do any of that? I mean, how do you handle that? For example, for the flow assurance on injection, how do researchers and actual projects interact?
Then I would like to show you a picture. Just
yes, thank you.
1 second.
I'm partly asking because I think it's certainly an issue that comes up in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Stuart wants to say anything about that.
Can you see this picture?
We can.
Yes. This is not offshore, it's outside my office building. And this rig, we call it the Facto, and we have been developing it for almost 10 years. And it was born first as a horizontal loop designed and manufactured at Rotvoll with Equinor. Some years ago, it became the de facto project, and here we have a well drilled almost 100 meters into the ground. We have a vertical loop, and we are actually almost finished with the commissioning. So this is ready for testing, and we will then be able to test CO2 injection. We will not inject CO2 at Gløshaugen in Trondheim, but we will have horizontal loop, 100 meters, where we can do test pressure release, shut in. We can test what if water entrains the injection site, and different aspects of CO2 injection. So this is a way to get closer to the reality, and of course to develop and verify models to do very good calculations of these issues.
So, sorry, you're saying this is a 100-meter deep well?
Yes.
Loop just
Yes.
next to the office.
Yes. And
on top of the hill in Trondheim.
Yes, not on top of the hill. It's on Gløshaugen, so it's at the campus, and the new campus. So
okay.
This is maybe 100. It's 100 meters from the main building at the university in Trondheim. So when we have visitors that would like to know more about CCS, we take them here and say, "Oh, this is how we do the research," and we have made a lot of permits, of course, to be able to do this, and we also have a vertical pipeline on the roof where we can pressurize CO2 to more than 100 bars, and we can release 70 kilos of CO2 from the pipe you can see in the top of this picture. And it's all very well equipped, so we can get really nice data. And of course, this is very important to bring the knowledge further, and to study not just clean CO2, but CO2 mixtures, because the behavior of CO2 mixtures, it's so different from pure CO2, and this is something we have been working on for many years to get to have this acceptance, because it's so important for the design and operation of these facilities. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So something else that's come up recently it's a sort of an ongoing question in the UK is CCS and jobs. And I think you sort of alluded to that in your talk, but does, I mean, for example, do you think that in the long run, CCS and related technologies could be as major a source of employment in Norway as oil and gas? I mean, I could basically for a long time now, I think Norway's been wondering about what's the post oil boom economy. Yes,
in Norway, it's a great, it's a big focus on what will Norway live from after the oil. And it's not just something that the NGOs is talking about. It's on the financial department in Norway, and it's really a concern because we peaked oil production 20 years ago actually in Norway, and we doesn't know it because the oil price has been taking up this gap. And now when the oil price is going back down, it's Norway have more income from the oil fund than from the tax from oil and gas activity. So this is very important, and we know that we have to change, and we have to have more of the income from export of technology or services, which is not oil and gas. And but we also think that this possibility to produce hydrogen is a very good possibility for Norway, and that it should be explored, and we should try to manage to do that. But it's not coming easy, and even if there is a government support for the oil and gas business now in Norway, and they get these aid packages because of Corona and so on. This has to change, and we are kind of moving this change ahead of us, but it will come, and it's really important. But I believe that within low carbon technology, energy technologies, and there will be jobs. Yes, I really do believe that.
Yes, I mean, we've had a conversation in the UK about partly new jobs and partly just preservation of existing. I think, we still, in some respects, have some amount of energy intensive industries, which I guess is not so much the case in Norway.
We made a report 2 years ago with the unions and with the labor union and I don't know the English word. In Norway we call it NHO, those owning the the industry.
Okay.
And we made this report looking into what job creation from CCS, and there are very, I think there are good arguments saying that if you do CCS, you maintain and create new jobs. You maintain jobs within the process industry because they can be more competitive with providing low carbon products. And even if we are not there today, with the EU Green Deal, it might come, and it will come, I believe, that you have to provide products with low CO2 footprint. And also in Norway we have this maritime industry, which provides a lot of possibility, also transporting CO2, transporting hydrogen, and so on.
And it has, I guess, sort of selling basically negative emissions come up very much?
Yes, we discuss it, and we try to call it, climate positive solutions. But and we have in SINTEF, we have something which is in the strategy. We have focused on this, and we see that in Norway we have a very long coast, and there we produce salmon for export. But it's also possible to think that you could produce biomass from the sea or the ocean. And maybe this could be linked to CCS, and you could have some negative emissions. But this is, it's quite early for us to think this way, but we have started, yes.
Yes, I mean, possibly direct air capture as well. Because at least those, I think people would trust Norway to do a genuine reduction. I mean, that's always the problem with a lot of these things. You get a natural reduction.
Yeah.
But you know, if you have a good and open society, you will actually be able to monitor that properly. Yeah.
Yes, you can say.
That's interesting. And then finally, so we're getting up time. Thanks for hanging in there. In some places in continental Europe, particularly, CCS, even though it's recognised, isn't approved of. I think the UK, I'd say, is pretty evenly balanced. CCS certainly isn't ruled out. How is CCS perceived in Norway? Is everybody okay with it, or do some people think it's just a cop-out and an excuse to keep fossil fuels going for longer?
I think it's quite much accepted in Norway, and but it differs. But that in the process industry, it's on a rising curve, in the oil and gas business. It has been high for a long time. So I think the biggest change the last year or last years is the process industry, going from having it on the radar to being really interested, and to preparing and investigating what could be our solutions, what different choices do we have for technologies, how can we plan, how much space do we need, and what about the value chain and so on. So I think this is one of the big changes in Norway, and that comes also, I think, from the development of the Northern Lights project, which is a networked project, and I didn't see so much about that, but the idea of the Northern Light project is to start with 2 capture sites and to expand it and to capture CO2 from other places in Norway, maybe from places in Sweden and Europe, and pick up CO2 with a ship. We have the PREEM project in Sweden, which is a cooperation between Narco Solutions and PREEM and SINTEF, and where the idea is to capture CO2 from the refinery in Gothenburg or Lysekil. So this expanding and seeing, I think if the process industry, they say we need to see the possibility to get rid of the CO2, because we can only take the responsibility if there is someone else that is willing to pick up the CO2 and to transport and store it for us. And of course, in between there, if the Northern Lights project, they say it will cost 30 to 50 euros per ton of CO2 to get the CO2 into Northern Lights. And this might be more than the industry or the CO2 emitters are willing to pay. So what about this in between? And there we come back to the business models.
Well, and scale as well. I mean, Northern Lights is quite small. It's only 5 million tons. What's yes. the thought to scale it up? I mean,
yes, I think the ambition is to scale it up, and it has been designed to be able to scale up. Personally, I think that if you don't scale it up, it will be it's a success when it's scaled up, actually.
And what's the latest on pipelines into Norway? I mean, we've looked at, I can't remember the names of the projects, but you know, we've looked at lines at the North Sea and things like that.
Yes, I think the focus in Norway now is very much on CO2 shipping and the pipelines. I know we have been studying that in EU projects and so on, but I don't know if there are any specific projects planning for that at the moment.
Just Ian, you had a question? Your hand raised.
Well, it's always associated with energy production, whether it's heat or electricity, but it's obviously a feedstock for making other chemicals. And Norway has, of course, a lot of coal in Spitsbergen. So regardless of the apparent objections to encouraging the use of fossil fuels that was referred to a few minutes ago, is there any thought of looking at it for preserving an industry of coal production in Spitsbergen, not because of electricity production or anything, but actually as a feedstock for the chemical industry?
Oh.
In other words, what I'm saying is you use CCS, you know, so but the processing is done up there, and you export whatever feedstock is away from there.
I'm not sure if I heard the beginning of your question, but when it comes to Spitsbergen, as far as I know, they have actually closed most of their mines there. So then it's a question whether to open the mines again.
Well, that maybe answered the question. It's too late to save it, in other words. They're already closed.
And I think that is a very political question, and I don't think I can answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the Russian mines are still open there or not. Yeah, that's interesting. And then, well, I haven't heard much recently, perhaps because I haven't been looking in the right places, about the Norwegian outreach program. Because if you remember, not so long ago, both Norway and the UK actually had a fair amount of money into international programs through, I think, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank on CCS.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I heard about the project. Where was it? In South Africa.
Yes.
Yes.
So that money is still being spent.
I don't know. I don't know if this is operating anymore. And actually, I should have known, but I don't know. And
Okay.
I've not been involved in it myself. But I know there have been some activity, and I have discussed it with the people in Norway. But that is some years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was quite a lot of money, wasn't it? It was the UK.
Yes.
That was a total of 60
Yes,
million
yes.
pounds, and Norway was similar.
Mm.
But I guess the most useful thing anyway will be getting some projects going and having people coming.
What we have in, I can tell you now that it's a kind of special, but it might change. But we have this climate program in Norway where we can apply for competence building projects and innovation projects. This has not been open for calls this year, and we think it's a pity because we have so much activity in CCS in Norway now. But all the money from climate has been put into the Eranet Act, and there is a two-stage process with the first call, or the first you deliver a few pages in November, I think. And the Eranet Act is, as we all know about, it's a co-fund initiative. So I think this is a good possibility for Norway and UK to find possibilities together. And we have some very good examples, and I think we can find more in this scheme. It's
Okay,
a
and then
little
really
bit complicated.
Well, yeah, we've managed so far. So I guess.
Yes, I know.
So very last question. So what actually is the timeline for the decision on Northern Lights? And
Yes.
who has to make the decision? Is it really up to the government now?
Yes. When it comes to Northern Lights, they have made investment decision. Equinor, Statoil, and Total. And I think the Klemetsrud and Heidelberg Cement, I think they are really negotiating as we speak, I think, because yes, that's what I think. And the Parliament, they will hopefully do their decision when they discuss or decide on the next year's state budget.
Mm.
So they have
and when
already.
is that?
It's I think it's in October, and there will be some. There have already been conferences discussing the budget, and there will be one, I think, in August.
Mm.
So we are in the middle of the decision issues as we speak.
And do you think COVID and oil price considerations will get in the way? I mean, are those?
No, I think when it comes to COVID, I think that will be the opposite, because the unions and the company owners association, I don't know, I don't remember the name in English. They are very clear that they would like to see this happen now, also to save jobs and to put industry in a new direction for low carbon society. So there is there also is a green package in Norway when helping out COVID-19 problems. So we really, I think actually the COVID situation could play a positive role when it comes to this, because earlier the cost of the full-scale project was very, very much for the government, because we are now in a situation where we have less income from the oil and gas, and we have a lot of big bills to pay. We need to build up the parliament, and we need to invest in many big things in Norway. So the full-scale project is on the list, but it depends. It has, I think the COVID situation makes the money actually easier to get than the opposite, but we will see.
Yes, well, I hope you get it, because it'll certainly help decision in the UK, because I think we'll be thinking about that at the same time. Maybe have a little bit behind Norway, so if Norway makes a decision, that will be very helpful for us too. Okay, well, unless anyone has got any other questions, I think, thank you very much, Mona. I know it's even later on a Friday for you than it is for us.
Yes, it's one hour later, but it's very nice to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, as somebody said, these Friday afternoon events are a substitute for going to the pub on Friday.
Oh, yes.
That was Stuart's comment. So, but anyway, yes. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you. Okay, and Karis, do you have anything else to say before we log off?
No, I just want to say as well, thank you, Mona. It was really good to hear about what's going on in Norway. It was really interesting. Thank you. Just to let everyone know, next week we have cluster updates from Humberside and Teesside on Wednesday. And on Friday, we have Luke Warren from CCSA coming to talk to us on Friday afternoon as well, as the guest lecturer. So just to update everyone on what's going on next week.
And will we be talking about CCS or about something different?
Pardon?
Will Luke be talking about CCS, do you think?
He's talking about why CCS should fit in with a post-COVID-19 recovery plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you, Mona.